Hello everyone and welcome back to the comments section. My name's Brian if you happen to be new to the channel, but if you're a returning subscriber, be sure to get yourself a nice hot cocoa or a cup of coffee or whatever beverage you prefer, because you can always treat these as semi-mini podcasts where we continue the discussion around video games, MMORPGs, and so much more. The comments section is featuring your comments, so if you ever want to be featured in one of these videos, just continue to comment on my videos, and that's why we do this. I think this is an important aspect of what it means to have real dialogue with real gamers and highlighting a wide variety of different opinions and then breaking them down and talking about them. Before we dive into the content though, I just always want to just remind people, check the links in the description. I've got my Instagram challenge. We're trying to grow to 1,000 followers over on Instagram, but also I have an upcoming comedy show on December 2nd and the tickets are now live. So if you're in the Fort Worth area, you want to come out for some adult, not safe for work comedy, be sure to check that link and hopefully see you there. Even if you can't make it, click that link. I think they track stats, so it does make me look good as a content creator and as a stand-up comedian. But all of that being said, let's dive into what you guys have to say and let's have some fun. So let's kick this off right with Paratroopers saying, I pray you don't fall into the same rut. As I love this game for its future ambition, I have gotten to the point that there isn't enough content for me to stay interested. There may be some white knights that disagree, but most of the content is player generated. So if you don't team up with a fleet and fly, that you will fall out of this game fast. Now I'm looking forward to the future content, but you can only run the limited missions so many times before it feels like a grind. Now I haven't played since last IAE, and hopefully I got that right. I keep seeing those letters in all kinds of crazy different orders. Just we'll go with it. I will not be returning to this game until it gets more content like data running and crafting and base building. I have seen some great progress that tempts me to try it, but I think I will wait one more year and then I'll find a corp to fleet with, and maybe by then I will be changed enough and it will be like a new game. One of the things I always want to make sure I'm very clear with everybody who's watching my content is that Star Citizen will be a game that I play a ton, but I will continue to also make sure that I take time to play other games. While I understand from a content creator perspective, this will hurt my channel, but that's the best thing for me as a content creator. I worry about the content creators who are like, oh, I would love to go play that game, but I've made my entire livelihood my content. And I continue to let people know I love making content. You're going to keep seeing content from me. It is a hobby. It is a passion. I get to hang out with and talk with you guys about video games. That is the best gift. That's all you ever owe me. Like the fact that I love that I get comments. If you guys like, this is the best. This is why I love these videos. But my livelihood, my children's livelihood isn't going to be depending on me appeasing the algorithm or like making a video that maybe you want to watch that day. And I know that sometimes people are like, oh, I really look forward to your next video about X, and that makes me so excited too as well. But I think variety is such a healthy thing. I think it's something that if we're honest with it, when I look at the full-time streamer mindset, that's where a lot of, I think, unnecessary drama comes into gaming. A lot of frustration comes into gaming because you feel, at least the people that I've talked to, feel trapped by, I guess, the bird cage that they built. So when it comes down to it, you will see other games from me. I think it's very important. I think it's important to step away and take breaks from games. That's a healthy mindset. And I think Star Citizen does offer a lot. And I think what makes MMOs like Star Citizen and other MMOs different is that, like, if your full community, if your social network essentially is completely in the game, it does become harder to step away, and it does almost feel like a betrayal to step away. But it's, I just want to make sure I'm always clear, like, this game is incredible. I'm looking forward to it. And whether you feel like the game has enough content or not enough content, I think if, you always want to make sure that you're not saying that you're not going to go play another game if you feel that call. And I think when people make this their business, that's where we run into that. But you can let me know whether you agree or disagree with that, because there's a wide range of people here on the channel. So I'm looking forward to your thoughts on that one. So Bailey writes, good to see you in the verse, GP. As a fellow father of 6 kiddos, I can say yes, absolutely plan on having them join you later. My youngest was 3 whenever I pledged to Star Citizen, and now he's 12. Now, I've bought ships for all my boys. My girls really aren't into anything sci-fi, so I can't figure out what I did wrong there. However, the boys love it. We crew together and have awesome times together in Star Citizen. No other game gives us this type of experience together, and we've played other games, and they just can't hold or handle or hold a candle to Star Citizen. It would help if I learned how to read at some point in the future. Stay tuned. Anyway, looking forward to your content on Star Citizen. So if you guys don't know, I got 6 kids. I feel very blessed to have the family that I have. And as you might expect, it does keep me busy, making sure that I'm working and doing all those kind of fun things. But this gives me such excitement to see whether my boys or girls, like however they want to kind of play and engage with it. Like we spend a lot of time in the Mario universe and on the Nintendo Switch right now. That's namely due to their age. But what this is, and a couple of other comments that I've seen, really are excited about the kind of the family mindset, because I always jokingly say a family that slays together stays together, which is kind of just a building off of, or just being a little bit of a silly kind of nod to St. Mother Teresa's "a family that prays together stays together" quote. And so when it comes to this, it's like, yes, finding time to spend with the kids. It's not about quality time, and that's a big myth I think a lot of people mess up. I think it's about quantity of time. And so one of the things I've discovered as a dad myself, the things that makes it really easy to get involved in what the kids are doing, is I'm very action oriented, meaning like, let's go play catch, or let's go play soccer, or let's go play a video game. There is essentially kind of this mindset activity, and I've given myself permission for that to be okay. I always kind of had this weird dad guilt of like, well, I sometimes struggle with the imaginative play. Not that I don't participate in it, but I find myself more drawn to like, hey, let's go do X, and maybe that's just my personality in life. But yeah, I always try to have a mix of it, but I find that it's much easier and the kids seem to have fun when we're working on, some kind of activity together, not like as a training regimen, but just like, yeah, let's go do this thing. Let's go to the park as a good example of that. Let's go play tag or hide and seek, something like that. I find games obviously are a great melting point. So what I will have to do, because we'll get into some other comments here in a section, and the talking about kind of like, I don't need to buy this, is like, well, I kind of want to. And so what this means though is that since my kids are still on the young end, but some of them are getting older, I think I'll start to squirrel away and start trying to save some money to be able to pick up a couple of gaming PCs and try to kind of figure out what that layout's going to look like in the long run. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm very excited. And for sure, like, we could build our own our own unit, and like essentially whether it's one ship or we're flying a fleet of ships, it's going to be, I think, a fun experience, and I'm looking forward to spending that time with the kids. Chalagazni writes, if you really wanted a ship before purchase, get in the global chat and test the ship out. 9 out of 10 times you will find someone that will be super proud to show you that they're sparkly space pixel ships. Obviously that tells you nothing about how it works in 4 and 5 years, so get the ships that you love and the look of the ships and the purpose of, rather than how they play right now. And I think this is a really great comment, because I mentioned, I was like, man, it'd be cool if there's like a rental service. And again, speaking from ignorance, like maybe there is, but so many people responded. And this is such a great idea. This is a great idea because it then re-incentivizes the social nature of this game, which is one of the things that really separates it from the pack. And I think when it comes down to the MMOs, they need to look at what makes them an MMO and what makes them different, rather than just necessarily kind of a rush to like, samehood. Like, okay, we're going to make this so easy and so accessible. And not that accessibility is a bad thing, but it can be. Ease of a game isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it can be. There's going to have to be a balance when it comes to all of this, because you want to make sure that, like, yes, I can comfortably play this game, and that makes me more apt to want to play it. But if that comes at the cost of other people's enjoyment and making it a game that's actually, it stands on its own, it has its own kind of, in a way, North Star for attracting people to come play it. Otherwise, people are just going to look at it and be like, that's just like every other game that I have. Why am I going to migrate to your game? Why am I going to go play your game? What does it do differently? because that ends up being kind of what the craving is. Anyway, all that being said, is that incentivizing the social nature of the MMO, I think it's an important thing, and we've lost that because we've let things like content creators, we let things like Discord, we've let things like social media really truly kind of replace that. So for people who are looking for a primarily social experience, they might have moved on into just social networking and social media, as opposed to somebody who is like, I'm actually looking for a game with those features. And so it's been this interesting transition with the MMOs, and I'm really happy to see a new wave of MMOs that are starting to look back and say, like, but that's kind of a core what it means to be an MMO. And it doesn't mean that we need to have 16 million subscribers like World of Warcraft did that one time. But it does mean that it's like, what's gonna make this game stand apart and be special? And I think that's one aspect, and hopefully they never lose it. And thank you so much for the suggestion, because you're absolutely right. Like, the community wants to show and be part of this. And so I think leaning into that as an option is a great choice. Now, in response to the idea that you could have like AI helping you out and man the ships, stannistargaryen says, good thing you will eventually be able to hire NPC crews and pay them to help you run your bigger ships. And I like this because like altruism isn't a good design plan. It's great when it works out. And what that means, for those who don't know, it's the generosity of others, players willing to step in and help out. And this game has a lot of that, and that's great. But you don't want to design your game on that, because if that ever changes, if the community ever shifts or that philosophy just gets different, it ends up becoming a gap in gameplay and design. And how do you get new players to ease into the system? And this goes back to the previous comment about accessibility not necessarily being a bad thing, but it can be. So having an option that is there for players, and it'll be interesting to see what they do. Like, my mind goes into kind of the gambit system from Final Fantasy 12. Like, it would be really cool if I could say, hey, here's what we're gonna do, but maybe there's personality to these NPCs. Maybe there's like a progression to these NPCs and developing a relationship with these NPCs, so that you can choose to go with your friends, or like, let's say it was just the two of you, but you have a 6-man ship, you could bring in some NPCs as well, and thus essentially kind of custom tailor your experience without having to sit here and worry about always picking up strangers. Again, let's bring back the kids in this situation, especially when it comes to MMOs. One of the things that has always frustrated me, and I really hope Final Fantasy 14 addresses this one at some point, they've introduced the ability to play with NPCs in the instance content, but it is either solo only experience or nothing, right? So if I want to play Final Fantasy 14 with Maddie, my oldest, we would have to bring in 2 random players, which in an online world could be a positive or negative experience. More or less, it would be really cool if the 2 of us could bring in the NPCs, and then Final Fantasy 14 doesn't offer that. And I hope that Star Citizen, if they go this route, offers that. So let's say we're doing a duo, and again, we got a 6-man ship or a bigger ship. Like, I bring some of my NPCs, you bring some of yours, especially if there's a progression level tied to that. And again, forgive any ignorance towards the roadmap, drinking from the fountain when it comes to learning everything about Star Citizen that I can. And one of the things that I always try to remind people is that the human brain, I think, is only capable of absorbing new information so much per day. So it will take a while, but just, bear with me, continue to give me the information. I'm going to continue to read and study and hopefully get that foundational understanding about what's all been communicated, what the overall plan is, and what's coming soon. So I know that we've got updates that are looking to roll out. They just were testing, I heard, the regression layer thing, and it seemed to go pretty well. So I'm looking forward to seeing when that decides to step into the persistent universe as well. All right, moving on. mstrzg, mstrzg, been playing for over a year and a month now. Just a couple of things from a newcomer to newcomer. First, don't forget that you can rent a lot of ships in the Arena Commander, and you can then refit them. Right now, the tank modes are a great way to get a bunch of arena creds and rent ships with. And second, expect to die, sometimes for no reason, lol. So don't get too attached to the gear or be worried if a mission might be hard, because you are really likely to die delivering a package as you are bounty hunting. Third, prison is short so that you can accidentally get a crime stat and go all in and do some criminal missions, and sooner or later a player will come and kill you. It's really fun. Fourth, don't give in to the FOMO. Everything that will be purchasable in game, and every ship goes back on sale periodically for in real money. Plus, they seem to nerf every new ship after its first week anyway, lol. But seriously, buy it for the game, and if for some reason you get sick of your cutty, you can always melt it and trade it whenever you own as many times as you want with the 24-hour cooldown. Oh, and speaking of that wonderful ship you're flying, the 24th, you can rent a flurry of AIE and stick it in the back. Well, I haven't tried it yet, but I'm definitely going to try it. And so if you can do some of those races, welcome to the verse. You already got a workhorse of a ship. Nice choice. What I like about this is the Arena Commander. This is such a great idea. We talked about when we talk about Sandbox and Theme Park, Arena Commander is the theme park offering within this game, thus making Star Citizen one of the first pioneers in the Sand Park model, where you have Sandbox and theme park. And so being able to do that, try that out, rent that out, that's a great idea. I think that's essentially where I do and probably should spend some time, especially if I'm more solo or anything else, just checking out the different modes. And maybe we'll do that on an upcoming stream just to continue to learn more about this game. But hopefully the next stream we get to do some first person shooting and some kind of those missions as well, because I'm very excited to see what that looks like. And honestly, I think it sounds like a lot of fun. So yeah, we'll be sure to keep it locked to the channel and ring that bell for notifications if you haven't already, because when I do schedule the streams out, I try to give you guys enough notice, but sometimes I don't get any notice. It usually is like, hey, all right, I'm streaming. Also, hop in the Discord, because that's also a great way to get notifications when these videos and more go live for the specific topics that interest you the most. Spicy Mayo with a spicy comment follows this up saying, coming from the Destiny 2, I was amazed to see how open and friendly Star Citizen's community is. And Fester follows up, it says, it's been that way for a long time and well known for it, but as it becomes more popular, you're starting to see the common gamer personality show up more. And one of the things, like I'm, like I was an avid Destiny player, but they have really soured me, and I've seen the community in a way kind of twist and go really, like, it's just weird, right? Like, and I question, is that because of the game and how Bungie's chosen to run their communications, or is it that the game's so popular and so large that the percent of crazy, like if you think maybe like every game has a percent of crazy in their community, it's just a volume bigger because that the ratio of the Destiny community is quite large. And so when it comes down to it, I think that's one of the things I always try to like look at within a community, is that how do we as a community handle our, in a way, for lack of a better term, our cult. Every gaming community has that cult, and that cult can be, like just the most dedicated players who are happy to help other people. But it's kind of the bad apples. Like, how does the community handle the bad apples? Do they excuse them, or do they brush them aside, or do they shame them? Do they say, like, that's not us, stop acting like this way? That's usually telling to the health of a community. So when you end up having kind of the crazy minority, which is the point is that in every gaming community these people exist. They represent, like if you went into the physical, put them all in the physical world, like out of like 100 people, maybe there's one of them, you'd never see them or hear from them in the physical world, but in the digital world, their voice is magnified and they get attention, and that makes it feel like they represent that community. So I think it's important that as a community, and to keep that element, not taking over, because they have the ability to, they can easily like infest like the social media aspects of it, and so all messaging and communication gets corrupted. That's where, like, I think that's always important. That's why I believe in calling and shaming as a tool to continue to make sure that the overall health of the community is well respected. So I don't know where Destiny went right or wrong. You can let me know what you think about that. It could just be that, Destiny is such a massive community that the percent of crazy is still the same percent across the board, but because of the size, it just feels like it's way more. And then the online world makes that really prevalent for gamers. Belladrail writes, you don't need hardware. Don't listen to people telling you that you need to buy flight sticks and all of that. Buy them if you want them. The game works perfectly fine with mouse and keyboard. Even the Cutlass was an unnecessary purchase. You can just buy the $45 package and a starter ship and earn the Cutlass in game in a few days. And so just to continue to reiterate, buying the Cutlass is me not, investing is the wrong word because I'm not getting an ownership stake in the company. And I honestly would continue to encourage you guys, make sure you're rocking a budget, pay off all your freaking debt, and build wealth like nothing else. And that's coming from investment. So investment isn't the right term, but there's a part of me that feels that like, oh, I want this thing to exist, and this is a way that I can go about making that a reality. And so this is me playing Star Citizen and saying like, this is what I've wanted and I just didn't think was possible. And to find that there's millions and millions of other players who've backed this game, it gives me actually confidence to say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put some money into the ring. And what I said, especially in previous videos, I'm perfectly excited and happy to be able to drop a couple $1,000 into this game over time. It's not going to happen immediately. But I want to start with hardware because I've always wanted that. I remember being a kid. I remember being like wanting that. And yes, I never played Elite Dangerous. And yes, I've missed out on a lot of games. And that was namely being sucked into Final Fantasy 11 and 14 for so long that it was just like I never had I felt like the time to go and play other games. But now I do. So when it comes down to it, like, yeah, I don't feel any kind of pressure to ever do anything that I've done. And it wouldn't matter if you guys applied pressure one way or the other. Like I'm honestly, like I'm a man, like I'm just going to do what I want. And, it's like, all right, you can let me know one way or the other how you feel about it, but it's not going to change, essentially my course. It could, I guess, I never want to be so stubborn that new information wouldn't, change, or inform me a little bit better. But at the end of the day, like I was like, yep, I've set this as a part of my budget. This is what I want to spend my gaming money on this month. And now what I want to do is start saving up for PCs for the kids and some hardware. Cause I think it just sounds like it would be fun. It would just make the experience way more enjoyable. So the thing I want to push back on is that yes, you can play this game for just the $45. And that's awesome that they have that as a model. And I think that's a very smart thing. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that I can help contribute to what this game could be and hope that it does become that thing. But also at the same time, like I've said, and I will continue to say, like, this is a risk level investment. Investment's the wrong word, but this is, I'm willing to risk this in the hopes that this thing can become a reality for not just me, but for everybody else who's backed it. And it feels good. It really does feel good. I feel like a part of that wasn't needed, but it was, and that's why I was happy to also do it, because it isn't needed. So anyway, thanks for the comment. That's just want to have that little discussion. And let's move into Gravedigger says 6 kids. Damn, you know how that keeps happening, right? LOL, I got 1 and a stepson and it's plenty. Add 4 more and I need a 3rd or 4th job. And what you'll probably notice about me, why you don't see me stream that much and more, yeah, I work a lot. I've got a great job. I got a great, employer who keeps me busy and more. And then YouTube brings in a little money, but most of it goes to the editor, which is great. And he makes these videos possible. So thank you, Jack. You freaking rock. But this obviously is that hobby. And so, yes, like what I end up doing is just living off of a budget and saying no to a lot of things. And that means my truck is paid off. Me and my wife worked really hard, several years ago and paid off $100,000 in debt. Highly recommend Dave Ramsey, especially if you're in that same boat. He really changed our fundamental relationship with money. And that makes something like having 6 children so much more feasible, where I don't have any payments, and so while we're working to try and pay off the house early, that's what's the baby step that we're on. It is a very freeing experience. And so I think a lot of people, and I understand the cost of children is not small, but I do think a lot of people talk themselves out of having children or having more children because that they're constantly like chasing new cars. Their money is in ways that keep them trapped into debt and keep them locked out of freedom. And that's what debt is. A lot of people will say, oh, it's a tool and all this stuff. And then if you really go follow their life over time, they're broke and they lost. And when you rely on that as a tool, just be very careful with kind of that, because people have spent billions of dollars trying to get you to get into debt so that you can't tell your boss to go F himself. And that's really the power of it. Like if, you know, your work is making you do things and work hard and not really enjoying life, if you're in debt, chances are you're going to stick with it and you're going to take less money. You will make less money if you keep borrowing it. And that's just the reality. You'll also spend more, you'll waste more. And that's what every study seems to show. And so anyway, yes, I do know how kids get made. If my wife sat down and said she would like to have another child, the answer is immediately yes. We weren't able to have children for a while. She had a brain tumor, and that was a whole journey that prevented us from having kids. And here we are. And I feel very blessed and very lucky. And yeah, like I think at the end of the day, it gives me the ability to try and become selfless more. And while I'm still selfish and I still, you know, fail as a human being, I look at it in terms of like, you know, what's the best good for the world, and the world needs kids, you know, and we need them more than ever nowadays. And it's unfortunate that if you don't believe me in what I just told you, when you do, it's gonna be pretty bad. Like you're gonna see a shift here over the next 10, 20, and 30 years that I don't think, if you're paying attention, you're going to be really ready for. And I just wish you guys luck. So if you're thinking about having kids, if you're, you know, discerning that, you know, what I'd say is make sure you get out of debt and pay off your debts, because we need kids. We need good kids. And that's my goal, is to raise good, joyful, hopeful, holy children. And that hopefully I'll be successful. So wish me luck. King 124 says, "You've fallen into the trap. See you at $4,000 later." You got me. I do think that I could see myself getting to that tier at some point. No rush though. I think like I said, I'm going to work on the hardware aspect just to really improve the overall enjoyment of the game. But then, yeah, I think I'm going to be going on kind of a little ship collection spree over 2024, especially when we see different updates roll out. I think that might be where I target it. Like as updates roll out, then maybe, you know, from a budgetary perspective, at least once a month, like find another way to purchase a ship or something like that. Obviously, like, well, I'll have to look at the budget because I do want to save up for like some of the really ridiculous ships. But yeah, that's going to be kind of how I think about it. And that's going to be my approach. Kumpel says, "I've dropped 140 on my freelancer, better than 10 years ago with high expectations. Those expectations have yet not been met. Star Citizen business model seems to be selling up pixel ships while promising a finished game someday. I am coming to the point where I doubt that they will ever come. 10 years is a long time to wait, and then to figure it out if you were around long enough. Just my 2 cents worth in this case." And so, yeah, 10 years is a very long time, and I think we still have a very long time to go based off of where they're at. But with the engine improvements, like this is just, I think, a problem of frustration with communication, PR, and development, where high expectations and high ambitions meet with the reality of having to craft development tools that don't exist. And there isn't a tool, you know, once it gets created, one of the things that'll be neat to see is that once Star Citizen is out and gets created, everybody's going to point and say, "Oh yeah, clearly that was the thing to do." You know, like that. Okay, that's what it takes. There's now a roadmap to follow, and you might see more games in a way kind of sprout up with that same business model and same, you know, ambitions and goals. But they're going to be following, and they'll be much faster because they're going to be following the pioneering trail that the Star Citizens devs have done. And the reality is that they might hire some of those devs, right? When it comes down to work, money moves people and makes them move things. So you can end up saying like, "Oh, we figured this out. Now I don't have to spend time in development figuring it out. I know what we need to do, and let's build that, and then we'll go forward from there." So that's kind of where, when it comes down to it, yeah, if the game never ever releases, I don't know, like right now I'd be perfectly fine with that. I know it'd be like, "Oh man, I want to play this in a real way, you know, with the kids," but I can play it in terms of how it is now, and I can get some enjoyment out of that now. And so I'm going to choose the joy aspect of it. And if I get frustrated with the game, if it takes too long between an update, you know, the beautiful thing is there's lots of great games to play, and I can go find, and, you know, a little time to go put my joy into a bucket that's going to reward that, rather than get myself burnt out and bitter in that regards. But I think what will be the best solution here is that Crumple needs to, just, continue to step away, take a break, maybe not follow the news or the updates or watch videos and things like that. Just really kind of have that break because what you'll end up finding is that progress will get made, and then when you do step back in, it will be exciting. There will be so much to look at and do and to experience and to learn that you almost gonna have that spark of joy come back into play. Davis Forever 3 says, patiently waiting for the controller guide for Star Citizen, but that seemed to confuse Fester Smith, who says, please explain. If you guys have never seen any of my content and you're only coming in for Star Citizen as my voice fails, get some coffee. I like to make controller guides from an accessibility perspective, and I do this for many games, and a lot of people just have discovered my content through my guides when it comes to games, and I think that's a fun thing to do. And the game does support controller, but I would say, like, playing it's just much easier to play on keyboard and mouse, clearly, for all of what it offers. But yes, like, at some point there will be a controller guide for Star Citizen for players who want to have that kind of experience, and I think that's a really great thing for me to kind of talk about. I think it will be way more complex than any others. I also like to make changes, modifications, use, I could use fancy controllers with back paddles and more for whatever just makes the gameplay way more comfortable and easy to play. Doesn't mean that you have to play it on controller, but it means that just the fact that it is an option opens up the game accessibility with, in my mind, not hurting other players because it's an option. It's not the, like, okay, you have to, like keyboard and we deleted keyboard and mouse because it's only controller. I think opening up options to players gives that a lot of flexibility, especially if you're disabled and things like that. I've talked to, and a lot of the people in the community have served in armed forces and things like that, have been disabled or disfigured, and being able to play on a controller has been helpful. And some of the best feelings that I get from the work that I put into those guides is when somebody's like, I couldn't play this game until I found your guide. Thank you so much. And, obviously for their service, and I thank them for their service as well. So, yeah, that's something I find a lot of passion and joy in, and that's something that you'll find with Star Citizen and some of the content that I produce for this game. Stellar Mass Jack writes, I love the idea of getting a basic multi-crew enabled ship for future play with your kids. I understand that they're too young to play at the moment, but it's not a bad to start them thinking about in terms of 3D movement and some of the problem solving involved in navigating a space with no true up or down. Great to see on Space Tomato Show, by the way, and looking forward to more of your content in the verse. Well, thank you very much. Yes, actually, it's a really good point, and this is something that when it comes down to video games, like I start to kind of think about, like, what's the next game I want to introduce the kids to? So we've been doing a lot of Mario. I'm thinking about, like, how do we work with the Zelda aspect of it? But also, yes, this is a different thing. Like when you start getting that up and down space, I'm thinking of probably maybe picking up Splatoon to kind of get some first person or some shooting aspect gameplay here in the kids, maybe over the Christmas holiday or something like that. But yeah, there's going to be a roadmap that I have for building the kids into these kind of games, because I do want them to enjoy them and not be afraid of them. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned. I don't feature my kids in my content. They do occasionally sometimes pop into the stream, but just note that when my kids are interested in content creation, my wife's nice philosophy is no when they're 18. That's that we will help them out if they want to step into this world for sure. But one of the things we do is we do make videos with the kids, but we only publish those to the family. So it's just kind of like family and stuff. And when they turn 18, if they want to make those videos public, then that will be their choice to do so. But I didn't want, because kids can't make decisions, like, guys, like, so many people, come on, like, just keep the kids safe. Don't let them be online. The nature of online posting and so much more, studies after studies show, is just so damaging, especially to young females. So one of the things we're doing is like, yeah, okay, we can make this video. Yes, we will share it with family, and that's it. And then when they're an adult and they can think through what's life going to look like in 5 years and what's life going to look like in 10 years, and that's the goal, then I'm going to let them make the choice if they want that to be public, because they would tell me, yes, they wanted to be public, but they're kids and I'm the adult. And so that's what me and my wife decided we were going to do with it. But that wraps up today's comment section video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you made it all the way to the end, secret call out, sound off with hootie hoo in the comments. That way I know that you made it to the secret call out. It means a lot that you guys are here. If you guys feel like it earns it, like, sub, share, comment below, jump into the Discord, let me smack the keyboard, and so much more. Thank you guys again. I love you. Hopefully you have a wonderful and happy Thanksgiving and wonderful upcoming holidays, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. But until then, take care. That was fun.